Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Visit drjoelwade.com, scroll down, and click the Audible banner to get 2 free audiobooks and start your free Audible trial today.
You are now listening to the Mastering Happiness podcast with Dr. Joel Wade.
There's a very liberating principle that comes to us from the ancient Stoics that you can use to make your life more effective and much less stressful. Come join me to take a closer look. I'm Joel Wade, and welcome to today's podcast. I was driving on the freeway last week, and a guy on a motorcycle went flying by, maybe 10-15 miles per hour over the speed limit. In my head, I heard the voice of someone's ornery grandfather criticizing this fool for driving so dangerously, being so reckless, having poor manners. Then I caught myself, and the thought dawned on me, I'll bet he's having a lot of fun. Immediately, my feelings changed. I went from feeling grumpy and annoyed and old to expansive and lighthearted and younger. I was appreciating the freedom this fellow was expressing, even though it's not how I would do it. In short, I was empathizing with the best in him, and it felt wonderful. The ornery grandfather I heard was me wanting to control other people, in particular this guy, so that things would go the way I think they should. But the truth is, I have absolutely no control over anything that guy does. In that moment, I had a choice about what I would focus on and how I was going to feel about this, and that was the extent of my control. By accepting that I don't have godlike powers to make other people behave how I want them to, I'm accepting what's true. And there's something very liberating about that. It allows me to see what I do have control of. In this case, what I focus on and how that focus affects my experience, and to own that. The effect is significant, and it all stems from a principle of Stoicism. UCLA's legendary basketball coach John Wooden said it this way: "Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do." Theologian Reinhold Niebuhr's Serenity Prayer says it like this: "God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it this way: "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. It is only after you have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can and can't control that inner tranquility and outer effectiveness become possible." The bottom line is, focus on what you can control and accept what you can't control, because really, by definition, you can't control it. Now, we can debate abstractly about how fast one should drive, and people have already done that to the point where we have our current posted speed limits. I'm absolutely not saying that nothing matters, so just accept everything the way it is. But when we spend time dwelling, ruminating, or fuming about things over which we really have no control, the only effect is to make ourselves feel helpless and miserable. There's another piece to this that's easily missed. In this example, once I caught myself being an ornery old coot and let go of what I couldn't control, not only did I feel free of the negative feelings of criticism and annoyance toward this fellow, I also felt the joy of empathizing with what I imagined to be very fun for him. It reminded me that fun is a good thing, that playfulness is essential to a life well lived, and that I can value doing things that I enjoy too. That's not a trivial thing. Those kind of positive emotions boost our immune systems, improve our heart health, and energize us emotionally. They do this by bringing us into our higher brain function and the part of our nervous system that allows us to feel safety and trust, and that attunes us to understanding others. Play and joy aren't trivial. They are expressions of our most delightful human qualities, and they allow us to bring our best forward. On the other hand, to the extent we spend our time ruminating about how we wish other people would be, we're putting ourselves into a defensive, vigilant posture of protection, focusing on our wishes and missing the actual human beings right in front of us. If you want to be miserable, practicing this helpless, angry, disappointed frame of mind would be the way to do it. But let's try something this week, and I'll join you. See how often we can catch ourselves getting irritable or angry about things over which we have no control. And when we do catch ourselves, let's see how quickly we can redirect our thinking toward either a positive quality we might have overlooked or something we can actually do to be more effective in the world. Then, notice how different that feels from indulging that helpless, ornery grandfather voice. Now, I had no relationship with this guy on the motorcycle, and therefore zero influence with him. But what about the people we do have a relationship with? One of the most common questions I get in my coaching practice goes something like this. My husband, wife, son, daughter, friend, neighbor, etc. has this behavior or belief or idea. How can I get them to change it? Now, if it's a very specific behavior and changing it would make a big difference in your relationship, it's always worth just simply asking. For example, when you talk with your mouth full, it really bothers me. Could you please do your best to not talk while you're chewing? But often what we want the other person to change is much bigger and more abstract than that. Of course, we've all felt the desire for somebody else to change at some time or other. If only this person we care about would just stop being so negative or change this one belief, then they'd be so much better off. Or we'd be happier anyway. The big problem with this idea is that it's hard enough to change a big habit or belief within ourselves when we want to. Trying to get someone else to change a habit or belief that maybe they don't want to change is really a long shot. I've been working with people to help them change their beliefs and habits for nearly 40 years now. It's something I enjoy very much and have a lot of success with. But it's not easy. It takes time and energy and often a good deal of courage to face our fears and troubling behaviors. When we nag, lecture, cajole, or manipulate those we love to be more the way we think they should be, in that moment, we're not really in relationship with them. In that moment, we're not seeing them as a human being with all the complexity and unique internal experience that we each live within. In that moment, we're seeing them as a thing to make different. I don't mean to say that we don't generally love or understand them, but when we go into that particular mode of teaching, and what we're teaching is the lesson we think this person needs to learn, in that moment, we're disconnected from that person. When was the last time you changed somebody else's behavior by nagging or lecturing them? Or, better yet, when was the last time you changed your behavior because somebody else nagged or lectured you? We can scare or intimidate someone to do certain actions, but that's not helping them to become better people. That's just forcing them to act in certain ways when we're looking. That's no way to love somebody. The truth is, we're powerless to change and control people, even the people we're close to. We're helpless to make somebody else be the way we want them to be. We are not machines to be programmed or fixed. We're living, thinking, feeling human beings, each with our own hopes, aspirations, and visions for ourselves. None of us is going to just toss all that aside because somebody else wants us to be different. Here's the good news, though. We do influence one another. And we influence each other in a big way. But that influence isn't linear, and it's not something we can direct in such a way that we guarantee any particular outcome. We have the most influence on the people with whom we have good relationships. That means less nagging and lecturing, and more listening, kindness, playfulness, and curiosity. If you want to influence your children to be better people, be good to them, pay attention to them, listen to them, ask them about what they like, do things with them, and be good people yourself. Be clear about structure and limits and expectations, of course, but in a way that has integrity with your actions. Your kids are watching you, everything you do, because you matter to them. If you're behaving badly, and then you tell them they should behave well, they'll hear what they see you do and not what you say. If you're behaving in a way that's consistent with what you say your values are, Then they'll see that you have integrity, that you walk your talk. Then your words will matter because they match what your kids see you doing. If you want your mate to be more loving and attentive, be more loving and attentive yourself. And then, at some point, you can ask for more of what you want from them too. But they'll already feel more loved and cared for and will be more likely to want to do the same for you. If you want somebody else to change for the better, build a good, positive, caring relationship with them and show them your values through your actions. Then, let them be who they are and trust that you're doing what you can do. And be patient. Human growth and change takes time. It's much more like growing a fruit tree than going to the store and buying fruit. The roots deepen, the branches expand, the leaves stretch out to take in sunlight, and then the blossoms appear that will lead to the fruit. In other words, again, focus on the things you can control, not the things you can't control. We can't control how much or what the quality of the fruit is from a given tree, but we can water and attend to the elements that allow it to grow. We can't control other people, but we can control what we say and do ourselves, how we attend to them, the examples we show ourselves through our words and actions in our everyday lives. And that's where our biggest influence is. What they do with it, that's up to them, and they get to decide what sort of influence they'd like to have on others too. Another thing we do when we focus on what we don't have any control over is we worry. Worry is seductive. It's common, prevalent even. It feels bad, but it feels like at least we're doing something. But the truth is, worry is not effective or generally helpful. Worrying puts us in a passive, helpless stance in relation to events that are unfolding, and it drains us of the energy and spirit to act effectively where we can genuinely make an impact. We worry about the things we can't control. Think about something you do well, something you're able to take effective action toward. Do you ever worry about it? I doubt it. Sure, you think about it, you prepare for it, you apply yourself to the work that it takes. But do you worry? Do you sit helplessly thinking about all the things that could go wrong and how awful it would be if they did go wrong? I don't think so. You know what to do to prepare. You know the actions that you need to take. You also know where the risks are. And you dive in and do your best. If something goes wrong, you take note, learn from your mistakes, and use that knowledge to do better next time. There's nothing passive about this, because we're focused on what we can control. The satisfaction of doing something well is one of the great joys of life, and it's an active, solution-focused stance toward life that makes such efficacy and the resulting satisfaction possible. We're creatures of habit. We like whatever we're used to, and we go to great lengths to keep things the same, even if what we're used to is rotten. There are many ways that our habits can blind us to opportunities for taking effective action. For example, I've had clients who are struggling financially say something along the lines of, "Given the house that I live in and the lifestyle that I have, which costs a lot of money, how can I solve my financial problems?" They spend lots of time and energy worrying about their plight without seeing any possible action, because any effective action, which could include moving or otherwise changing their too expensive lifestyle, are habits they will not consider changing. If you find yourself spending time worrying, ask yourself this question: what action could I take that would make things better if I let go of my preconceived vision of how everything has to be? This doesn't mean that we sacrifice our values or our family or take unethical or illegal actions. Honor and integrity are not things to sacrifice, even in the worst of times, especially in the worst of times. But if you find yourself worrying about what you can't do, look for the actions you can actually take that you're not considering. Confront yourself with your preconceived visions that may be trapping you in a helpless bind, and then see if there's anything you can do to actually improve your situation. even if it may involve losing long-established facets of your current lifestyle. This can be kind of like going through the things in your attic. What are you holding on to in your current lifestyle that hurts you, that you no longer use or need? Look at it, consider it, and then, if you can do without it, let it go. There will be plenty that we will choose to keep too. But when we change a habit that genuinely improves our quality of life, it's not a loss, though it may feel like it at first. If it improves our quality of life, if it enables us to feel a sense of efficacy, to feel more at peace, and to be more loving and available with those whom we care about, then what can feel at first like a loss is in truth a gain. We end up gaining a greater value in exchange for a lesser value. Take your worry as a sign that you're focusing on what you can't control, that you're feeling helpless and need to do something different. Then look for those actions that you can control, that will move you from passive worry to positive, benevolent, and effective action. You'll get used to the changes more quickly than you might imagine. And if you do this with compassion, honor, and integrity, making these changes will be something that you'll be proud of later. The ancient Stoics had a lot to teach us. This one concept, to focus on what we can control and accept what we can't control, if you take it to heart and really practice it, can be a wonderfully liberating and energizing concept. It's at the heart of an effective, problem-solving approach to life that can relieve you of a lot of needless worry, useless criticism, and pointless condemnation of yourself and others. You might at first feel that you're not caring about people if you're not worrying, not being helpful if you're not trying to change people, or not being disciplined if you're not condemning yourself for what you can't, in fact, do. But the opposite is true. Focus all your energy on what you can actually do, and you can release that energy into effective action instead of helpless head trips. Focus your attention on loving the people in your life, and you'll find your benevolent influence growing, not shrinking. Focus on what you can control and accept what you can't control, and you engage reality in a way that allows for more clarity, more success, and more happiness. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. If you haven't heard of Audible, let me tell you about it. Audible is a subscription service that gives you access to thousands of amazing audiobooks from all over the world. If you're listening to this podcast, then you're probably familiar with the amazing positive benefits that audio programs can provide. There's no better platform than Audible when it comes to discovering new and exciting audiobooks to enjoy. Now, exclusively for my listeners, you can start your absolutely free 30-day trial and receive 2 free audiobooks just for trying out Audible. If you don't like it, cancel before the 30 days is up at no cost to you. Visit drjoelwade.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and click on the Audible banner.